Tom Blevins over from the Maps team at Meta, and we are currently making a big push to improve pedestrian data in a number of major cities. So I just wanted to take this time and walk you through that process, what it looks like, and how we're all kind of working together to help us all achieve our goals with improving pedestrian data. So yeah, the question we get a lot is, Meta uses maps. Yes, we do have a map team. We do use maps. A number of our applications have maps on them, and those are maps that we actually create ourselves. It's not something that we source from a vendor. We use OpenThePaths as a big source of the map data that we use, and we create our own map, and we actually run those series of checks and push out map out to a number of our products. And we believe in open, available map data, and we realize that this has the potential to really push it to the next level. When you're creating tools in the open, everyone can contribute. The more data that you have, the more detailed those maps are, the more cooler and cooler things you're going to be able to do with them in time. So how do we build maps? And this is a very basic diagram of kind of our process, and I've built maps throughout my career, and it's pretty much a very similar process. It's not easy, as I'm sure most of you know. It's very time-consuming, it's very detail-oriented. But we'll take these are our main three buckets of data: OpenStreetMap, authoritative data, which is usually provided by the GIS department with the government or something like that, and there are the machine learning data, right? So we take each one of those sources has a strength and a weakness. So what we try to do is keep the best available from each one of those sources and then match those together in one map, and then that's what we provide to the public through all of our apps. And we also provide it to the public for free through the daylight distribution. So that's where some heard of this or familiar with the product, you can go to daylightmap.org and check it out. But what we do is we take OpenStreetMap twice a month. We take a download of OpenStreetMap, run through a series of quality checks to look for vandalism or fatal errors and things that shouldn't be there. We'll fix as many of those as possible automatically. And we have human validated tools that will go through and fix some of those more nuanced errors that are in the data, and then we push that out to the data. So the very same map that Meta uses in all of our products is available to the public in a clean and easy-to-use version. There are companies out there like Snap and MapTile and others that use those businesses that rely on this clean version of OpenStreetMap. I don't get too excited because daylight will be deprecated sometime this year in terms of OpenStreetMap. So if you're not familiar with OpenStreetMap, this is a project started about 18 months ago to run collaboration between Meta, Microsoft, Primetime, and Amazon, and they have all kind of come together to bring their best available technology and knowledge to build this super map that is going to power the next generation of apps for Meta, for other companies, and hopefully more adoption by the public and regular consumers like yourselves. You go to OpenStreetMap's website, learn more. There's a lot of other partners that have come online as well. Azure is probably the bigger names, so check it out. And look for some mapping research. It's the same kind of daylight process of cleaning OpenStreetMap, but it includes a lot more data sources. So pedestrian data will soon be on that list. So what is interesting pedestrian mapping, right? We started this initiative last fall called the Walkabout, and this is our pedestrian mapping initiative, and it really is allowing us to improve the user experience with our apps, Meta, social media platforms, connect people and places in the virtual and physical world, and we realize that in big cities and places where people live, they are still using pedestrian infrastructure to get from a friend's house to a restaurant or, to shop or a store or something like that. So having the best quality pedestrian data um, is something that we're trying to push for throughout the next couple of years. Um, so digging in a little bit to these data sources that are out there, right? We believe that it's best just to create everything in OpenStreetMap, that way the community can maintain it, the quality is much higher, and then you don't have to kind of look around for authoritative data sets. This is a sidewalk data set that's provided by the District of Columbia, DC. Everything blue is a sidewalk. And it looks good as it does, but when you're looking a little closer, you'll see that there's some sidewalks identified inside the FBI building, which is not a place that anyone at this time will probably be allowed to go visit or use. In the middle of the street, then you see those sidewalks are disconnected. That happens throughout the sidewalk database table, but in reality, they're not. Part of it is like a Tuesday-looking sidewalk, and those are actually body parts in the sidewalk, the sidewalk, but it's not because of that. So, for whatever purpose, this, is not a very good sidewalk data for random purposes, but maybe there's something you could pull out of it. I'm not sure. We've been, along with Pedestrian, experimenting a lot with machine learning data. One friend can be pictures. The left here is Chile. You get some great sidewalk data where you have area coverage, but if you don't, it'll kind of base it on nothing. And then the challenge of not only creating a rendezvous network with machine learning data, and also being able to put that back into OpenStreetMap is also very difficult. To see this on the right-hand side here, when you have a refuge island in the middle of a crosswalk, right, the machines are pretty flat together, I'm not quite sure. And then, you have a database that's trying to bring in OpenStreetMap, see the other red circle there, with overlapping building, that happens a lot too, because they're created from two different spaces and trying to put them together into one. So, a whole new set of challenges, but they're all, the speed at which you can create data is tremendous. Quality is less so. We also use level imagery to create a map sidewalks. And so this is an example that I pulled from Team Microphone that was doing some experimenting with automatically extracting sidewalks from imagery. And he was like, well, the computer thinks that these are sidewalks. Like we are humans, we know there's a concrete or a rock wall on the side of the street, but it's very hard to convince the computer that there's a nice wall. It really thinks they're sidewalks. So, but yeah, cars and view issues, and now oftentimes it's kind of big, but it's like hopefully the best of what the world is putting it together is kind of, what we found to be the most effective approach. So just talking about street level imagery a little bit, we do meta names and maintains a platform called MapLand. I'm not sure if folks in the room are familiar with how or not, but it's completely through open queues, like a crowdsourced street level image platform, so you can use the app on your smartphone and walk around and capture imagery. You can put a GoPro on top of your phone and drive around and capture imagery. And once you upload everything to upload, it is on the streaming platform for like 4.0 license, which is compatible with OpenThePaths. So when you put your images up to upload, it runs through an adjustment process, it segments out the image, and then it identifies two pieces of infrastructure that are useful to mapping. Like you can see in the picture here, there's crosswalks, there's lamp posts, there's a manhole, there's a trash can, and those types of things. So you can then extract those into JSON file, and you can open them in an OpenStreetMap folder, verify that they're in real life and start adding them to OSM. There's a number of pretty much all of the editors allow you to view street level imagery with OpenStreetMap, to use that, and it's pretty much the only source of data that you're going to have that allows you to have detailed print types, surface types, with acre signs, singles, crosses, and things like that. And something that's very hard to do a proof data animation alone. So I encourage you to check this out if you haven't already. But yes, I did mention it's compatible with OpenStreetMap, and there's lots of like organizations and some state DOTs and things that are pushing all of their imagery to map level or street level imagery. It's one of those things that's not like an easy, it's not like satellite imagery. There's a lot of services out there that make it easy to create and stream through your desktop tool or something like that. So Macro has a plugin for HTML, so you can view that imagery in HTML, and also compatible with OpenThePaths. So see what's out there. If you're doing some mapping in OpenStreetMap and you're in a tricky place and under an overpass or something, point might figure out, that might be there, see what's there, and so on in more details. There's just a bit on OpenThePaths. I think these are some of, I don't have access now from here, so I think that's good. These are some of the more popular, fairly mainstream apps that are using OpenStreetMap in some form or another. And we were talking about the license, so some of these are not OpenStreetMap, but of course there's some of these that natively, but they're all using that as a big source. So they're contributing to us and they're contributing. Some of the users are small, there's a lot of math out there that use the data, so I'm very confident myself with improving and maintaining the map, and then my friends at Pedestrian as well. And so what we do is we're seeking out those other people that are like us that just want to build the best map data in the open for the places where they live. And we recently signed an MOU with OpenThePaths last month. We're working with our friends at Data New York City, in New York. They're doing a lot of mapping and image capture in Brooklyn. And we're also connected with the Youth Mappers Network. We are working with these students on internships in two cities that we're working in as well. The students are going through and mapping out all the pedestrian infrastructure in the cities and the that they live. So it's been great for them to learn the experience. We are all collectively building because of it. In March, OpenStreetMap US kicked off a pedestrian working group. I have a co-chair event with Maggie Crowley, who's the executive director of OpenThePaths, and we're in the process right now. We have two meetings. The next one's going to be late May, so we're in the process of defining what those next steps are going to be. Schema development is a big one. I know the great work that y'all have done out there at Pedestrian is probably going to be a base that we work from. I can't comment on too much right now. I can maybe answer some questions if anyone's interested in, but schema development is something that's going to be a collective effort amongst all the members of that group. That's something we do know. It's not going to be something I'm making decisions on myself. Honestly, there's people out there that have much more knowledge on the timing infrastructure and what that means to make the data more usable and things like that. That's all for some more, I guess, what maybe improved guidance to maybe schemas and some of the things coming out from the OpenThePaths community in the next year. We were talking about this earlier, the rapid upgrade. I don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but it is a tool that it's like the ID editor and the OpenStreetMap, but it does some of those automated checks. So if you have a crosswalk that comes to the road, it will make sure that the flag, the zebra crossing, and the ladder crossing matches what that point that comes to the road also says. So it also does some other weird things with tagging that haven't quite figured out, but we are constantly taking feedback on this. There's a GitHub page you can file tickets, and your comments won't go unnoticed. I think that's about it. I'm going to show you all about projects. We also maintain a community manager. similar to open sidewalks, and happy to work with anyone create a project for your city on uses rapid as the default editor, and we can kind of work together to engage with local communities to get them to see the spot in Brooklyn. We've got a little more progress on this, but this has been a big one. We've been working on it for the last 6 months, and we're getting so close to having it finished. I guess when I close the show, it's so close to having it finished, maybe in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be going back to validating all of the New York is a very difficult, Brooklyn is a very difficult place to launch. There's a lot. There's a lot going on. That's it. So happy to answer any questions. There's an email if you want to me directly. Yeah.
Hoping and thank you, Fred, for joining us today. Thank you for hosting. Any questions for John?
We're in this transition right now, so we're keeping good on getting Overture up and running, and then what that transition looks like, where we have to sort of balance our resources, so we haven't been adding any new features to the AI distribution, but a lot of those are steps to be included into Overture once that transition takes place. So I know there's been testing. I honestly don't know if it's in the public version or not.
Another question. We started to use that point of interest out of the purposes of doing accessibility analysis and access to facilities, sort of service agencies, et cetera, and one of the first steps that we went into noted that technical answers looking at the Excel export of that data set that more technical users are involved in. And the categories there's like 1,700 or something different types of categories of places in Washington State, including like size goals and sizes of those, economy goals of those. Yeah, sorry, that I don't have the size goals myself. So I'm just curious. I'm curious whether there is and how around all that was happening. But I'm curious what that is. I'm also talking the Overture Foundation, kind of some of the standard categories or some sort of process that helps curate that into kind of a little bit more clean.
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, map making is hard work, and what seems like it's easy, for example, parks are all like, they'll have a park that'll have the name in one database, a park will have the name in another database, so you're using like different data sources, you're comparing them all together, they're all telling you that, there's a park there, they're all giving you the same name of that park, but throwing up duplicates, right? Lots of duplicates. But focus is something that Metals bring to the table. We have, like you said, a pretty extensive database there, so it's just keeping them clean and up to date is the tricky part, and there's no easy way around it, honestly. But I'm glad you're using that data. If you give us some particular feedback, I'd be happy to connect you to the right people on that team. We're talking further about it, because do know that external feedback is something that they have a system in place for cataloging and processing and making sure that they're closing the fixes in a systematic way. Please do, yeah, awesome.
More questions? What one thing you have I mean, so one of the challenges when you get on this difficult and aggressive drawers, there are actually sticker and so you figure out with like putting the right down and doing this something else. But then what only one and how to do that in front of them
I think that's one of the big reasons behind why Overture was created, because Daylight was pretty much a meta. It was even a Facebook, really. It wasn't even meta at the time. It was Facebook that started the Daylight distribution. These are whole companies that are built on top of that map service. And you do get this question, hey, what if we go offline tomorrow? We have no experience, we have nothing. It's about 85% OpenThePaths data. But I think the beauty of Overture out now is actually a founded through Linux. Linux has a history of keeping open source projects going. They have the funding, they have the resources. This is one of the only data projects other than Linux Foundation, which is interesting. There's like hundreds, maybe thousands of software projects out there. There's like less data projects on my hands. It's really just literally a handful. And this is one of them, and it's the biggest. And bringing in all these other partners, so, Amazon bringing out the compute power, there's like the fact that, hey, there's so much real expensive data out there nowadays that the whole download data button is going away, and it's just going to be all these superpowered experience for stuff coming and going, almost seamlessly. Now, it brings a lot of experience in Daylight and the whole pipeline to the table in different places. Microsoft has a lot of machine learning expertise, and TimeTime has been this institutional, decades-long company building routable, useful maps, getting people from point A to point B, running updates, random fixes, those types of things. So they are the most experienced digital map maker I think on the team. I guess that's subjective, but that's kind of where this is going. It's like everyone's going to bring it to the table, run through Linux, so now it is pretty well funded, and there's not a whole lot of staff that are working on this right now. The way the whole project works is like Linux, there's a couple people there at the foundation that are keeping the project going, but then everyone who joins this Overture, donating, data and staff people to the project to kind of keep it going together. I feel a pretty big stuff on the way, but I can't imagine just all of a sudden being like, oh, you don't need that anymore. Get rid of that project, because they're becoming more and more ingrained in everything we can do. And this pedestrian is the next kind of track here.
Well, thank you so much, Adam. And is there anything from the people or anything that else good? Thanks for joining us. Happy birthday to your sister.